Hey, Slay Nation, it's your host, Heather, back with another episode of the So She Slays podcast today. I'm super excited to introduce Amanda Kenderes. She is a PhD communication expert and author of Talk Types, How What We Say Reveals Who We Are. Now, if that book isn't catchy enough, we're definitely going to be diving into the talk types today, what that means for you, because apparently there's several different types of talk types, if I say. And I'm super interested because I think how we communicate with our friends and professionally and romantically changes. So I would love to kind of dive into that and see if there's maybe some tips or some things that we can kind of take away from this episode that will help us navigate communication better all the way around with the people in our lives. So, but before we do that, Amanda, give me a little gist about what you're doing, how we got here.
All right. Well, first, thank you so much for having me. I think, obviously that this is a super important topic, of course. So I'm excited to talk about it. As for me, what I'm doing now, I teach interdisciplinary studies. So communication touches everything. So this, really, my background, sort of how I got here, it's been a long time coming. My story, really, really briefly, I was raised internationally. So I grew up around the world because my dad worked for the US Embassy.
Oh, wow.
Literally every 3 years, we were moving to a new continent. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what an experience.
Yes. I mean, yes. So I learned early on that if I was going to have a good time in any one place, I was going to need to learn to connect quickly because we were going to move on very, very soon after. I couldn't wait 10 years to make besties. So I figured, I looked around, I did a lot of observing. And one of the things that I noticed when people are making new connections is that people seem to start, that there were these levels, it seemed to me. So people would start out with kind of objective, factual talk at the beginning. It was the most neutral. So like, ooh, weekend's coming up. How's the weather? Those are facts, And then, so nobody can get offended, it's facts.
Very generic questions. They're safe
Very generic.
questions.
And then if people got to know each other more, they might make those facts into more, personalized information. Like, what are your plans this weekend? Do you have anything fun going on? Right. And then if we really got to know each other, we might get deep and talk about hopes and dreams and goals and all that kind of stuff. All right. Well, as wanting to connect quickly, I knew that my favorite kind of talk was this deep one, like this level 3. And I thought, well, heck, if I'm going to be moving on right away or very soon, why don't we let's skip the small talk and go straight to the deep talk.
Ooh, I love that.
So,
I'm like that too. I love a deep conversation. I
right?
love it. I'm like, the people who can meet me at that level right away, I'm like besties forever.
Exactly. That's how I felt. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to dive right in. And so on the picture me, I'm in elementary school and I'm diving in on the playground, like, tell me about your home life. And
Some deep questions right out.
Yeah, there was, yeah. And then, but that didn't really go over very well with most of my peers.
Yeah.
They're kind of like, tag, let's play on the monkey bars. So I tried. I was like, okay, let me just, maybe this kind of talk isn't for kids. Maybe it's for adults. So I tried out my little experiment on the adults in my life, the bus drivers, teachers, coaches, whatever. And so I would ask, like, what do you think the meaning of life is? I mean, I got deep on them. I mean, like real deep.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
You're a child. And
I was a child.
You just ask these profound questions.
Yes, that was me. I was that person. And so, like, what is happiness? And if my teacher was married, I'd be like, how did you know you found the one, Okay. Now, this didn't go over very well. This is,
like,
jumping.
What is this child doing?
Can we have her evaluated?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So this was not going over well. So then I thought, okay, well, thinking deeply and projecting this on, I was like, well, gee, if my peers aren't into this kind of talk and adults aren't doing it either, what happens to me when I become an adult if people just don't like deep talk? This was my little conclusion. I wasn't very, you only have so many logical faculties as a kid, and that's what I thought. I projected my life into the future, and it didn't look good.
Oh
So I
no.
was kind of down on the inside. This is
I
not
was
looking
like,
good.
whoa, we went to extremes here as a
We
child.
did. We did. Sad face. It's going to be gloomy. Yeah. But I still wanted friends and a good time. So I learned to just be like everybody else that I saw. I would just imitate. Well, fast forward 10 years later, and I end up having this kind of discussion turned argument with my dad. And without going to all the specifics, I had a breakthrough. Like, actually, this brought me a breakthrough where I realized that what I thought were these three levels of talk weren't actually levels really at all, so much as they were communication categories. And I realized that communication, that all talk can be organized into three groups. That's it, all around the planet. I mean, I had studied and been observing very carefully for some years now. And I went on to study it for another 25 years after this,
Wow.
across 40 countries. And I found that nowhere in all of this time, 30 plus years, 40 countries, can any communication be, no communication falls outside of these three categories. Wow. Okay. What did this mean? I finally understood that why we connect quickly with some people and why with other people it feels like pulling teeth to connect, is because we all have different preferences for these three categories. Some of us like category A as our favorite, and some like category C or B as our favorite, and so on. And when we rank these three categories by preference, we get 6 talk types.
Mm.
And that brought me to the realization that there is no one normal way of communicating. There are 6 normals, and I was one of those 6 normals.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is wild to me because I talk to a lot of people,
Yep.
right? And I can normally tell, especially in doing interviews, right?
Oh yeah.
And I'm going to toot my own horn here for a little bit, in the fact where I've been complimented on my interview styles, right? And being able to connect and talk to people. Great, love it. It's actually one of my favorite things to do. But what's so interesting to me is I can tell really, really fast. I'm like, I'm either going to be able to connect with this person and have a good interview and it's going to be laughs and funs and all this kind of stuff, or I'm going to have to work at it a little bit. I'm going to have to like ask, different questions in different ways and, steer the conversation. Or if they just like to go, 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 go with their answer, then I'm like, all right, we're going to have to curb this a little bit. There's like,
Yep.
there's things that go on in my head, but I can just tell the way. I mean, give me a few minutes and I can
Oh,
automatically be like, oh, I already know. I already know how this is going to go.
completely. So you intuitively have a sense of this, but I mean, underlying this, basically, I just put a vocabulary to it.
Yeah,
It's what
literally.
you've been experiencing and living.
Which is the
Yeah.
reason why I wanted to speak to you because I was like, this is so fascinating. There's words
Yeah.
that go with
Yes.
this.
Exactly. And for me, it was life changing. And I think it can be for so many other people because not only are we in the position, say, for interviewing or anything, interacting at the bank or the grocery store or with our colleagues or kids or anything, um, instead of just having the sense that, gosh, I know that this one is harder, this is going to be easier, I'm going to have to work this or that, to be able to say, okay, I know exactly how to work it. And maybe we had some sense of intuition, like from experience, like this method works or that one works. But now with a vocabulary, we can even fine tune it more so that we can
Mm.
really maximize our impact.
Okay, so talk to me about these 6 different types of
Yes.
talk types.
Perfect. So the 3 communication categories that they're based off of. So A, which again, I thought these were levels. The A being factual, it's level A. So level A, people with A, they enjoy facts and information, they love learning, but they're there to share their objective understanding.
Hmm.
That's their goal. And when I say talk, I want to make it clear that it's talking and it's listening. So if I'm an A dominant, for example,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm going to be sharing facts and information, my objective understanding, but I'm also listening for it. So if somebody doesn't have A in their talk type, it's their least favorite,
Yeah.
then it's really hard for their words to land on me if I'm a super A.
Okay.
So
Okay.
like I'm going to have a hard time listening and like finding a place to put what they're saying in my brain.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So that's A, objective understanding. Let me skip to C. C is subjective understanding. That's the deep
Okay.
one.
So it's like
And
the opposite.
well, they're both understanding based. They really want an understanding, but some things we can understand objectively, like the circumference of the Earth. Like somebody
Okay.
can figure that out.
There's
It's a
there's a fact. There's a number. Those are like my concrete people, right?
yes,
Okay.
yeah, and they will, accuracy matters. They're going to say no, that's not true. Let's look it up. Someone who doesn't have A in their talk type is like, don't challenge what I'm saying. Like, that's offensive if you say, let's look it up. I just, you know, but someone with A is like, it's not offensive at all. You can fact check me all day long, you know?
Got it. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So this C
The
category
C
then.
category is meaning making. It's the deep stuff and it's the subjective understanding. So, um, for example, I had a really hard childhood, or I had a really great childhood. Okay, that's my subjective understanding. Nobody can say I that's true or not true. That's my personal experience and my personal understanding, and nobody can measure it with like a yardstick. Nobody can you can't measure it with numbers like with the
It's
A.
a is it feeling based then? It's mostly feeling based?
Well, I mean, you could base, I had a great childhood. I mean, you could qualify that with all these facts. Like, my parents had money, so I was open to all these opportunities. And then I did all these things and I went to these schools that were really good for me. And you could
Okay.
find a way to,
Okay.
so you could back it up with facts. And so it might not feel like a feeling, but you're making meaning. Let me elaborate further. I know that these terms like objective understanding and subjective understanding, it's kind of
Uh-huh.
cerebral,
Yeah.
but it's deep. I mean, think about the three levels of communication that I was thinking of before.
Mhm.
A is like is facts. So the flight. I'm looking at flights. The cheapest one I can find to Dallas is 285, but there's a 5 hour layover. It's a fact.
Okay.
And then subjective understanding C. It's like, you know, I really miss traveling. I used to do that so much, but now that I have kids, there's a part of my identity that just has had to hibernate for a little while, and I really look forward to that coming back. It's like this
Okay.
deep part of yourself and this understanding of who you are that you're sharing with someone.
Okay.
And you
Okay.
can feel it. Like there's a
Yeah.
feeling there associated with it. Okay. B is relating. It's like, oh my gosh, look at look. Okay, I'm going to show you pictures of my dog on my phone in her Halloween costume. She's so cute.
Why can't I think of people in my life who fit in every single one of these categories
That's
already?
right.
I'm like, oh, that's so and so. Oh, that sounds like so and so.
Exactly. So, and we all are. So we have and B's are not about, they're not trying to get you to understand them personally deeply. They're giving you like their experience. They want to be heard. They want to be
Got
seen,
it.
heard, and felt. Um, that's why A's and C's are about understanding, but B's are about being heard. So if you interrupt a B, oh, you're not hearing me. You don't care. That's offensive.
Oh.
But to an A or a C, if the point is understanding and you interrupt me, well, okay, if you interrupt me because you don't understand, then actually that's not going against my goal. That's like going towards my goal. Like
Wow.
let me help you understand more. Oh, you didn't understand? Great. What else can I
Let
do
me
to help
talk to
you?
you more about it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh
So,
my goodness. Okay, so we have those three different categories, and
yes,
in those three categories, then leads to six different
six parts.
talking types, right?
Yes.
So how
Yes.
where does the six come from the three?
Okay. So if we rank them um, by, favorite, second favorite, least favorite, we will get two A dominants, AB and AC.
Okay.
And now we drop I mean, we could call the AB ABC. We could call the AC
Uh-huh.
ACB, but it's too cumbersome. It's too many letters.
It's a lot.
So we just it's too much. So we already know what the third one is if we just say the top two. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so we just drop it. So when we rank them by what we like best to what we like least, we get six talk types. So two A dominants, two B dominants, BA, BC, and two C dominants, CA and CB.
Got it.
Let me give you some just a couple of examples, and
Okay.
then so I think of a quintessential CB. Remember, so meaning making first, the deep, heartfelt stuff,
Okay.
and then the fun B relating would be Oprah Winfrey.
Okay.
She's like deep first. Oh,
Yes.
let's talk about our souls, and
Hey,
then
Super
she'll be like,
Bowl Sundays. I mean, love those.
right, and then she'll follow it up underneath. She's like, "Girl, you got your nails done? Let me see." So
Mm.
so that's the C first, B second.
Okay. Okay.
You
I
see,
see where you're going.
and
Okay. I
but
see
she
where you're
lives there. That's the point of the talk types, is that it's not so, I mean, yes, we can dial up and dial down these different categories when we interact with different people, but the point is we actually have preferences that are consistent our whole life.
Got it. Okay. It's so funny. Okay, so can we break down these different six talking types, right? Because we
Yes.
did one with Oprah, and like let's
Yes.
give a little bit of an example with, because it's so interesting to me, because I am deep first and then I come in with like the relatability, because I'm like, oh,
Yes.
it's gonna make you feel better. We're gonna be like, my thought in this is like subconsciously, and it's not like manipulative or anything, but my subconscious thought is like, I'm gonna come in with a deep, but like I can't be deep too fast because I gotta be relatable first.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. And so yeah, now okay, so much to say on that. Well, so much. Let's just look at an example of maybe each type real quick, just so you can get an archetype in your
Yes,
mind.
yes.
Okay, so an AB. So we started with the A dominance. An AB would be like they can kind of come across as nerdy or kind of geeky, factoid, because they're A dominant, facts first, and then underneath is the relating.
Yes.
So they don't have a ton of deep feeling. Let me talk about the meaning of life or my personal experience. So like Bill Gates,
Okay. Okay.
AB, Elizabeth Warren. She's
Okay.
and for anyone who's familiar with her, she's very, let's talk about the Senate and and
Straight to the facts.
politics and how to make, yes, facts. But then she'll make a joke, and it's a kind of a nerdy joke.
But it gets a little
I was,
giggle.
yeah, maybe, and just to be nice, yeah. you know like yeah, like she was on Colbert the other day, and Colbert was like, well, what if the Republicans take control, and because she's Democratic, and
Uh-huh.
she said, hold on while I cough up a hairball. That's her joke.
Solid. Solid joke.
Solid.
I'm proud of my
Solid.
dad jokes.
Right. So that's AB. It has a feeling. Now AC is going to be somebody like Elon Musk. Well, he's had a very varied career. Let's go with someone a little bit more consistent. Barack Obama.
Okay.
Barack Obama, he's facts first, but underneath there's a depth.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, I mean, that's who he is. I mean, you get him, you know, in fact, when he was running for president before he ever got elected, he actually went to train to learn how to do small talk.
Really?
Yes.
He's that much of an A person.
A and C. In other words, he doesn't have B, and so many people default to B for relating connections, interpersonal.
Which is where that small talk kind of
Yes.
lands. Okay. Okay.
He and since he doesn't have it in his talk type, he had to be trained. And if you watch him trying to do B, it comes across as like sometimes a little too A or a little too C. It's not quite. It doesn't feel super authentic.
You're like, what are you doing?
What are you doing, Barack? Yeah. So yes. So okay, we got AC. A BA would be somebody like Jimmy Fallon or Ellen DeGeneres.
Okay. Where
B
you have that
first.
relatability
Yes.
aspect, but you back it up. You come in with like the facts, the stats.
That's the secondary where you're like, okay, well we can talk about the facts, but we're going to use the facts for fun purposes.
Okay, okay, totally.
Yeah.
Okay, I see
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. so
This
so
is
you
so
get those.
fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. And then BCs, we've got, I've got old school examples. I'm like Mariah Carey. Who's,
Look, that's not old school at all. If nobody knows who Mariah Carey is, get off my podcast. Stop it.
right? Yeah. So, we've got, gosh, Glee. What's the guy's name from Glee? He is one of the famous guys on Glee. I am actually, because I was not raised in the US, I am very pop culture illiterate. So if I don't have my list in front of me,
Okay,
I
no
forget.
worries.
So who else? BC. The daughter of I'll come back to BCs. But BCs, I mean, there's so many BCs. Okay, I know one. Amy Schumer.
Okay.
There we go. I don't have to come back to them. So she's like relating first, but in her humor, she'll make those deep C jokes where she's like, yeah, this was hard. It's, for example, she was on Ellen, and Ellen, and Amy Schumer lives in New York, apparently, or she did at the time of the interview. And Ellen says, well, why don't you move out to LA? You could there's more space in LA. Maybe there's not as much as some places, but more than New York, and Amy said, no, gosh, I couldn't, LA's not for me. Because straight up body type, my arms register as legs in LA. So it's like, it's this, I mean, that's a C kind of deep sentiment about like, that's hard. She's actually sharing something personal, really personal.
Yeah, a little vulnerable.
Vulnerable. That C is total vulnerability area. But she's making a B joke out of it. She's using it at the service of her B.
Got it. Okay. So is she C
B
dominant
first.
or B first?
She's a BC. So she's B first. And if you compare Amy Schumer to Oprah Winfrey, they're different. Like Amy's going to give you B with C underneath. Oprah's going to do the opposite. She's going to give you C with B underneath.
That's so wild to me.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So now that we kind of have.
Oh, and we didn't get to the C dominance. We have two left.
Yeah. Okay, we got 2 left. Let's go. Let's
So
do
that's
it.
cool. Okay.
Yeah, keep going.
All right, we have 2 left. So the C dominance. Well, we did the CB, which is Oprah, but the CA we didn't do. So example of a CA would be Jon Stewart.
Oh, okay. So depth
He's
with facts.
yes, and he uses his facts at the service of his meaning making or his depth. Um,
Okay.
he uses facts to make sense of his world, to make meaning of his world, and to draw connections about things that are important, vulnerable, uh, and make a difference in life.
That's so
Yeah.
wild. Oh my god. Okay. Not me continuing to like move forward after this podcast labeling people. Like, so your talk type is a little bit more of an AC. Like, they're gonna be
Yeah.
like,
Right.
oh,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
are you talking about?
Totally. Yeah, and once your eyes are open to it, it's impossible to turn it off.
Okay, so now I have to say though, now that we know this information, like what do we do with it? Because I
Yes.
feel like we all don't have the same talk types, right? So, it's one of those situations where if I am naturally CB and I come into somebody who's more of an AC, like all that kind of stuff, like I think this is where miscommunication and loss in translation starts happening, right? And so
Yep.
it's like, now what? Now what do we
Yes.
do to mitigate that? Is it
Oh,
just
for
because
sure.
as soon as you label it, you're like, oh, I know this, but it's like, how do I still talk to these people so they understand what the heck I mean?
Yeah. So, I mean, the first thing is that we're all operating with these different goals. And so, if you have C and B in your talk type, you want people to understand you deeply, but you also want to relate and have fun and in your own, in your kind of B relating way. And by the way, we can all have fun in our own letters. But I think what's maybe a starting point is to think of where we overlap.
Mm,
So if you picture a Venn diagram and you've got, let's say, a CB with an AB, and they're in a relationship of any type.
okay.
Okay, well, where do they overlap? B. So this model actually gives us predictability. So we can say, okay, in this relationship, most of the time we talk is probably going to be spent doing B because that's where we
Mm-hmm.
overlap.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we're going to be. That's our mutual talk time. Is going to be B, where we're both enjoying ourselves. We have the same goals, like everything's aligned.
Yes.
But the CB is going to want to do C, and that other person isn't going to know what to like. They're not going to be able to do
Yeah.
it
Oh
well.
my God. Okay. Yes. Yes. I'm already thinking of people in my life. Like
Yes.
me, I already
Yes.
know. Keep going. Keep going. I'm so interested.
And the other person's going to want to do A, and the CB isn't going to quite. It's not going to be their favorite thing. So each person is probably going to need their C and their A needs met elsewhere,
Okay.
and that's okay. But here's the thing. So when we decide, when we're trying to find our life partner and just, who, or a career, or we're trying to figure out, the best friendships or the best, whatever we think is best for us, people often ask, well, what's the best talk type, kind of
Yeah.
compatibility
Pairing.
pairing? And it's like, well, actually, there's no best for everyone. There's just best for you. And here's why. Because each talk type pairing comes with its own set of strengths and weaknesses. If you
Mm,
even 2 CBs together, could you imagine 2 Oprahs together?
that's a lot.
That's a lot of
That's a
Oprah.
lot. That's a
That's a
lot.
lot.
That's a lot
And
of
they're
energy.
that's so it really is. And so they're gonna probably it's gonna be heavy.
Yeah. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I
Even
think
for
that's
them.
why sometimes her podcasts are really good, right? But for a short amount of time. Because
Right.
if that's where I'm living all day,
Right.
every day, 24/7, I mean, I'm like, do we ever
Right.
turn off? Do we ever go
Right.
have fun? Like, stop talking to me about this stuff. Like, I love it, but not that much. Like, we
Right.
need a break.
We need a break. And but if you get to, two people who are quite different, well, they're going to have different struggles, and they're not going to, like the example we just talked about, where so each one has its own strengths and weaknesses, and we just have to decide, okay, which strengths do we want to maximize, and which one do we want to have in our daily lives, and which weaknesses can we live with, and that
Yeah.
answer is going to be different for all of us.
So there isn't really one. That's so interesting because, like, right offhand, I think like my favorite conversations are the we're gonna use me, myself, and I because I can only talk
Yes.
about myself.
Cool.
But like I feel like for me, I'm definitely more CB dominated, right? Like I judging off of what we've learned today,
Yeah.
I'm definitely more CB dominated. But I have somebody in my life right now who's a lot more I think AB dominated. Like they're
Yes.
A first, but like B, we have a lot of relatability, like that we can relate a lot. But I'm like, it's so interesting because when you're like, oh, it kind of feels a little weird when, because like they will automatically hit me with some facts and stats and this and this and this or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, yeah, I get it, but like, I would feel blah 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 blah. That's
Exactly.
literally how the conversation goes. It's
You're
like,
like, that's not
yeah,
the
but
point.
this exactly. And he's like, but you're like missing, all of this X, Y, and Z stats, facts, numbers, all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but you're missing the fact that these people don't really feel like.
No, and that's exactly right. You're each going to be missing something different.
It's exactly what it is, and it's. I mean, if you're like me, I'm definitely one who is intrigued by different thought processes or like that kind of stuff. So it doesn't really bug me that much. But I could see like if you were definitely like a lot more like I enjoy the in depth talks because I get like you said I get that need met elsewhere. I have podcasts and friends who
Yeah.
think on these levels and all this kind of stuff. So it's very interesting and now that I can clearly see what is happening, I'm like, oh my
Oh,
God.
exactly,
Okay.
exactly. Well, and I would say, to add on to this kind of application discussion, while there may be no perfect pairings, fine, but we are going to be, they're in relationship with people who have different talk types and who aren't 100% aligned with us. And so it's like, well, how do we navigate that?
Yeah.
What can we do? And I would add that, okay, sometimes people hear this and they, oh my gosh, I feel overwhelmed, but look, there are only 6 talk types. That's actually, that's not that many.
That's pretty good for how
Pretty
many
good.
people like I mean like we're pretty complex people.
That's right. So we only have 6. And the fact that in each relationship pairing or interaction, there's always going to be an overlap. Always going to be an overlap. So there will always be some way to connect with that person that you both share. So that's good. Now,
Mm-hmm.
that said, sometimes somebody is going to have a dominant category that's your least favorite. It's their favorite, it's your least favorite. It's going to
Mm-hmm.
happen. So, what do we do? Um, there are a bunch of things that we can do. We can try to steer the conversation into, our overlap if we can identify that. But if we have to, and a lot of times we have to talk in, our non-categories, then
Mm-hmm.
in our minds we can just translate it into our own letters. So, for example, someone who doesn't have, let's say if you don't have A in your talk type, it's not your favorite, talking about,
Yeah.
Facts for facts sake.
I
Um,
forget the numbers
exactly.
out my head.
Right. Yeah. It is. It's like that toy, that shape sorter toy, when you're kids, it was like a Tupperware, it was red, blue, and
Oh,
yellow, and
oh,
you put the pieces in.
oh gosh, right? And you're against the timer, right?
Oh, gosh, that sounds like something different. I'm talking about I'm trying to put a triangle into a square hole in this round
Oh, got
ball.
it, got it. Okay, yes,
That's
that
how
is
it
definitely
feels
one.
where it's like, okay, I don't have A, and this person's like trying to put A into, it's like just the shape, it doesn't fit. It
It
doesn't fit.
doesn't fit.
So what do I do? I think what we can do is we can try to translate into something that does fit for us. So, so for example, you know, maybe the person who's, you know, the AB in your life. Okay.
Okay.
They're giving you these facts. And then it's like, well, I'm not sure what they want me to do with it. So
I'm laughing because we've had this conversation before, but keep going.
yes. So, you know, you could say, okay, so what's your point? They're not going to be offended.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do
Literally,
you,
I'm like, so
like,
what's the
literally,
purpose of this?
what's
I'm
the
like,
purpose of
what's the
this?
purpose?
Yes.
That's
And
literally what
they
I
will tell
said.
you. Like, okay, here's the point. Um, somebody who doesn't have B, you know, someone gets out their phone and shows pictures of their dog or their kids. If you don't have B, you're not feeling the relating. You're like, okay, you know, when's lunch? So then, okay, translate it into one of your letters. Be like, okay, you know, I don't have B, but I I can translate it into A. Like, oh wow, they also have a Chihuahua. You know, there's so many Chihuahua owners in Los Angeles. Or like make it interesting for yourself, or translate it into.
This is so fun and hilarious at the same time because now I feel like now that I can spot this, because there's people in my life where I've had these conversations and I'm just like, they'll make adjustments like that, like unknowingly, right? And they'll be like, oh, did you know that there's like X, Y, and Z, blah, 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 based off of this one, you know, relatability fact that I shared with them. And then they're like,
Totally.
oh, yeah. And I'm like, interesting, didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's so true. And yeah, it really, the ways that we connect and feel known and understood by people really are connected to those ways. So if your friend, your AB friend, if he's an A dominant, he really wants you to understand him in A to feel known. So then it's like, okay, let's get that for you because I care about you as a person, and you know, so what do you really want to convey to me and communicate? And for a B, it's the same thing. Like I'm trying to relate with you with all these different things, and I want you to know about what I find funny and all my idiosyncrasies and like the weird things that I like to eat for lunch and you know whatever. I want you to know all these fun facts about me and kind of what makes me tick. And so even if it's not like deep understanding kind of realm, it's wide, it's breadth. Like I will
Yeah.
feel known by someone if they, you know, who someone who has B. I will feel known by them when they know all these little quirks and traits about me and they remember the people's names in my stories and they know, you know, and they can cycle back and make those inside jokes and that feels really nice to, you know, to a relator.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, all of this to say is we have different ways of measuring how we feel known or understood by someone or connected. Yeah,
Oh my goodness.
yeah,
Wow. What a fascinating topic. What a fascinating topic.
yeah, yeah.
I'm so taking all of this and like I will never look at conversations ever the same. Like, no, it's gonna be
Yeah,
a little
yeah,
bit more informed. Um,
exactly.
Amanda, thank you so much for joining us. Before we wrap up, where can people find you, follow you, and where can people get Talk Types, your book?
Yes. So you can get the book at Amazon or Barnes and Noble, amandakenderes.com. You can, this is my website, and social media of the same name. And yeah, so I'm absolutely interested in you know people's feedback on the model. It's just hit the market. It's been so many years in the making, so I'm definitely looking to hear all sorts of feedback about it.
Oh
So
my
just
goodness.
yeah,
And where can people find that book one more time?
Amazon and Barnes and Noble. Talk Types: How What We Say Reveals Who We Are. So, yep,
Go
it
get it.
is.
Go
Yes,
get
go
it.
get it, and then and use it and see what kind of difference it can make.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness. I'm
yeah,
using it. I'm gonna use
yeah.
it for sure.
Right on, right on. I
Oh my
love
gosh.
it.
Thank you so much for joining us. And Slay Nation, as always, thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you later.